Have a Merry Christmas.
You too. Thank you very much.
Have a fantastic Christmas.
A very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
No.
Yeah, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Enjoy it. And I hope you have a really nice time.
I wish all of your listeners the merriest of Merry Christmases, the safest of New Years in case there's any Muppets on the road causing mischief, and a 2024 where their success starts to bore them.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to this special episode of Leading with Integrity. The time has come. It's Christmas Eve. This is the Christmas special. I hope you've been looking forward to this one as much as I have. And we've got some special cracking Christmas stuff in store. So I've got two segments for you, if you like. To kick us off, I'm about to be joined by the very special Mr. Rory Berry of Roaring Berry. You may remember him from last year's Christmas episode. He's an expert in all things people strategy. He's a huge advocate for the effectiveness of fun and play at work. And in fact, he's an excellent practitioner of Lego serious play. And those of you watching us on YouTube will see as soon as he joins us the amount of Lego that he is constantly surrounded by. So we're going to be talking about the title of the episode, really, the anti-work Christmas party. Why that end-of-year, last-minute panic rush down the pub to give something back to your staff, in inverted commas, can often be the worst possible way of doing it. And what are the better options to think about? After that, the second segment will be joined by a dozen different guests. We've got some old and new faces, not old age-wise. I'm not calling anyone over the hill or anything. Old as in past guests of the podcast. So we will be joined by, hang on, there's so many of them, I need the list to remember them. And I'm probably going to get these out of order. So we'll be joined by Rory himself, again, obviously, Rachel, Helen, Alan and Emily, two Bens, because one didn't feel like enough, Simon, Katherine, Steph and Debbie, Sonia, and all of those guests are going to be talking with me about Father Christmas, or Santa Claus, if that's more accurate for where you are, and what leadership lessons we can learn from the great bearded bowlful of jelly extravaganza that is Father Christmas. We're also going to hear some tales of good and bad office Christmas parties, which may support or refute our case in this episode that the Christmas party is the bad way to go. So let's get stuck into it. Rory's here. He's waiting patiently for me to get the episode started. So here we go.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Mr. Rory Roaring Berry, thank you for coming back to the podcast.
Always a pleasure.
It's becoming a bit of an unplanned Christmas tradition. I've decided that you're going to come on at Christmas every year, whether you like it or not. It's just going to happen.
Love it. Next year we can build Christmas Lego on the podcast.
That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? I'd have to move my camera, I think, or just sort of build it in the air. But anyway, that's a problem for next year, isn't it? So today, as it is Christmas, as this is the Christmas special, I thought we could talk about some Christmassy themed things. And the big one professionally for Christmas is the office Christmas party. Now, I know you have some strong-ish views, which comes from what you do, I think. And perhaps there's some experiences of bad parties in there that you might want to talk about. I don't know. We'll cover that a bit later.
We can definitely cover that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what have you got against the office Christmas party? Let's start with that.
It's not that I specifically have something against it. I just think that it's often badly used, badly utilized, badly communicated, and just ultimately becomes a money drain, which should be and could be something that's incredibly powerful for unity, community, and collaboration. But it ends up just, in many cases, being an absolute guerrilla fest where people just try to get guerrillaed as much as possible on the boss's dime. And I understand letting off steam, et cetera, but it ends up being more counterintuitive than productive.
I do see where you're coming from. But I think the counterpoint I would offer is the best office Christmas parties I've ever been to are the ones where that's exactly what happens. You just get absolutely out of your mind on the boss's dime and everyone has a great time. But then equally the worst ones, same.
Yes.
I think it depends on the context of the time. So
the challenge that you have with any of these things is that you have to rely on people to self-regulate when there is a medium involved, which is entirely designed to prevent self-regulation. And so if you have the right team with the right culture, with the right, it can be a phenomenal experience, wonderful for everyone, etc. But unfortunately, when it goes wrong, it goes badly wrong. And then you end up, and this is the problem also with the timeline, and I realize that it's a Christmas party at Christmas, so like you can't have it. I mean, technically you can have it whenever you want, but if it goes badly wrong and then you break up for the year, the first thing everyone's talking about as you start a new year, which is supposed to be full of positivity and joy and momentum and acceleration forward, it's, we need to now deal with what happened there. And we need to deal with the fallout of that thing that happened. And so it becomes an anchor that prevents the acceleration in the new year. So yes, when done well, phenomenal, powerful, beautiful, team filling, team bonding, etc. But unfortunately, there is no middle ground here. It's a absolute light side and dark side of the Force experience. When it's great, it's great. When it's bad, it's real bad.
yeah, it's a good point about the timing of it. I don't know. I don't know how many companies do that where it's literally the last time you see people for the year, or how many of them are just started doing it earlier in December, largely because it's cheaper then to get a nice restaurant or a nice pub or whichever. I was going to ask you, like, what's the difference then between any other work event or team building thing? So apart from the timing, is there other things that sets it apart, do you think?
I think team building versus team activity is a key differentiator and a key thing to understand. The minute I hear the phrase Christmas do and team building, like my soul hurts, because it's, unless it's actually planned, intentional, aligned with things, has a defined outcome, there's a structure that's in place to achieve said desired outcome, it's not team building. It's a team activity. And I know that there's a lot of people use them interconnectedly, and there's nothing wrong with team activities. But if you try and shoehorn or crowbar in team building into a team activity, it doesn't go well, because then it becomes forced fun, which of course does the opposite effect. So I think that if they're trying to make it a team building event, then it generally doesn't work. I know that there are exceptions to every rule. If they are open about the fact this is a team activity, the expectations are different, the experience is different, the whole vibe is different. I think also there's some potentially interesting developments in the way people are viewing the world going forward, which is also shifting the way this event will happen in the future. I mean, there's more and more people that are drinking less and less. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a very polar thing, like there's the non-drinkers and the drinkers, you're not bringing people together. And so where do these balances lie? So it's becoming a more and more complex thing to make sure it goes right. And as I said, when it goes right, it's phenomenal. It is honestly one of the greatest things that you can ever do for a team. And I've been to some absolute belters in my time that served as great conversation for the first 3 months of the following year in terms of, I remember and then the wahaha. But unfortunately, I've also been to others that have resulted in sort of HR related conversations for the first 3 months of the following year, which didn't help morale.
Yeah, it is a challenging one, isn't it? I mean, even having been to some really good ones over the years, even still, when I hear the phrase work Christmas party, the first thing that pops into my head is the Ricky Gervais version of The Office and the Christmas special. And it's like everyone's just sitting in the office getting drunk and looking miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. That's the first thing, but
it is an interesting thing. But also, I suppose, and this is where it comes back to the cost benefit analysis. And I know that, I mean, even a lot of the work that I do, it's sometimes trickier to prove ROI in terms of like, this is what we invested, this is what we got out of it. But if all you're getting out of your Christmas do is a bill and HR related complaints, you should probably stop doing it or change it. But if you're getting phenomenal camaraderie, better conversation, people understanding each other more, and keep doing it, and don't just do it at Christmas either. Have a Q1 kickoff. Have a summer party as well. Why do the staff only get one joyful thing a year? If you're trying to really build your team, your Christmas party should be the culmination of a number of wonderful experiences throughout the year, and not we're just going to have a free tab, get them all gorillaed and hope they don't hate us going into next year. Because if you're weaponizing an event to try and get your team back on board through free booze and food.
Yeah, it's not much different, is it, to the have some free pizza once a week, or we provide your coffee in the office. Those kind of, I call it tokenism. I know that's not what tokenism means, but it's like the token effort, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
It's like the bare minimum.
Yeah. I think one of the most effective and let's say powerful, because that's a good word, isn't it, these days, ways of doing it that I've seen is they do the team building bit during the day. So they'll do something that's properly planned, intentional, as you say, and there's a conscious logic behind it to help get people working together, much like serious play with Lego, which you're all about, I know. And then you follow that up with the team activity. And it doesn't, again, it doesn't have to be an alcohol involved thing. I know that's a Christmas thing, but just go for a nice meal somewhere. And if people want to drink, they can. If not, they can have orange juice and just talk to their colleagues. Yeah. But I think following one up with the other is a really good way of doing it. Because you double down on all the benefits.
Yeah. And to follow on from that as well, if you the one thing that I sometimes struggle with is you go to these events where everyone's supposed to be bonding and chatting, and the music is so loud, you're screaming to talk to someone who's this far away from you.
Mm-hmm.
How's that building a team?
Better communication because you have to try harder. I don't know. That's tenuous.
Tenuous in bed. But this is the thing. One of the best ones that I ever went to, the organization went, okay, so we're giving everyone their own budget for the night. So everybody gets X. And they put on essentially a Christmas fair. Like it was a mini one. There were only like two or three food vans. But then there was also a couple of people selling giftsy type things. So it was like a mini Christmas fair that the whole team attended. So there was a bar where you could give in some of your tokens and you could get X. There was food that you could give in some of your tokens, you get X. There was even like some like little games and things where you could like ring toss and like a proper fair. But then you were given your budget for the night. So some people ended up spending more of their money on like the ring tossy type games to win prizes. So they had presents for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then obviously, if you wanted to, you can add your own money to the event. It was a very clear and obvious thing. Like this is what you were getting from us for the night for this experience. And so there was music, there's a vibe, but it wasn't like deafening. So there was the ambiance, and then there was the ability to choose as well. So there was like X type of food, Y type of food, Z type of food, which I suppose is, especially with evolving tastes, needs, allergies, etc., 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 it removes such a large amount of stress.
Yeah. I mean, I really like that idea. I never heard that one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Why didn't I ever get one of those? Oh, now I'm grumpy.
But that was spoken about literally almost 6 months later. People were still referencing the Christmas market in meetings and telling new staff members, "Oh, you should have seen our Christmas market last year." What? You had a Christmas market? Yeah, our Christmas party was blah, 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 blah. And it was like, what the Jeff? Unsurprisingly, it went quite well, so they did it again.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I've been doing it ever since, I assume, yeah.
I think they did it for 3 years. I'd moved on by then, and then they changed it up slightly just to keep it fresh, and then they brought it back a couple of years later, which I think is also quite clever. So you have like a rolling 2 or 3 options that work really well, and you can like dip into and dip out of, because also you could do a thing like that as a summer market.
Yeah, I really like the idea of changing it up every year as well, because I think that's another big criticism of the work do, isn't it? It's the same pub or the same town every year, and it's always the boss who picks where they go, and it's just
exactly. Oh, we're going to Steve's local again. Thanks, Steve.
Exactly. Yeah.
But also one of the other things that I've started to see, and to be honest, I think it's probably more economically motivated than anything else, is people shifting their Christmas do into January as a kick-off do for the year, with a bit of a, this is the plan for the year, this is what we're going to do, etc., etc. And then obviously the venues are wanting work in January, so the costs are slightly lower. So you can get more for your money at that time of year. And if you're trying to think about things to get your team motivated, they're coming back to something in January, which is quite an exciting thing to think about through that downtime. So if anybody's on the edge of possible disengagement, they know there's a jolly to come back to.
Yes, I think that's quite clever for a few, not just the economic side of it, but I mean, when you think of the whole culture around New Year's resolutions, and if they're not quite happy at the end of the year and they're thinking, oh, maybe I'll move job in the new year, and then Blue Monday as well, of course. I think it makes sense for so many reasons.
Exactly.
Maybe do both instead of putting up. Yeah, maybe that's too much.
Well, and this is where it comes back to, one-off events are not nearly as powerful as frequent events. Now, I'm not saying you have to do something every month or every 3 months. 2 events a year, and it could literally be December, January, like wrap up, kick off. Fine. But you could also have kick off and then the summer party, because let's be honest, it's lighter later. You can do it outside and have a ton of fun, because let's be honest, summer events, there's more light, it's warmer. Okay, obviously it's also the UK, so it could be raining, but you have a higher probability of being able to get more people there, because one of the things that I know a lot of people struggle with is driving at night in the dark, in the cold, in the miserable. And so sure, they'll arrive, but there might be some begrudging participation. And obviously this is depending on where you are in the world, because if you're in different parts of the world, it could be summer. But if you are trying to make it as inclusive as possible, and people are nervous to drive at night in the dark, having it at a time of year where it is lightness, not darkness, does make an element of sense.
Yeah, I think most people are generally happier in the summer as well. Maybe that's my bias, but so I feel like if they're generally happier, then it's more likely to land well and become a good memory instead of a bad one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think regular stuff, however frequent or not, doing it more than once a year
is key.
It is really important, and not least because it just shows that you as the employer, as the boss, manager, whatever word you are actually taking this sort of stuff seriously, and you're willing to devote proper time to it. And it's not just that kind of cursory end of year, we'll just go down the pub half thought sort of thing.
Well, and if you're going to only do it once a year, be proactive. Because as you said, what are we doing? Oh, we'll just pop around the pub for a fish and chips, yeah, and a pint. I feel valued. Said no one ever. And I think this is where you've heard me talk about this a lot. People strategy comes in. Why are we doing this? Because we have to. Wrong answer. Try again. Why are we doing this? Because we would like the team to feel valued and seen. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. What does that look like? We're just going to order in some Subway platters and a keg. Are we though?
Yeah.
That doesn't feel very seen or included. Oh, what do we have to do? Do we have to hire a venue? I don't know. Do we? Do you have a venue of your own? Yeah, we could probably use the boardroom. Do you have the best boardroom in the world ever? No, but then probably not. And so it comes back to, what's the point? Now, if the point is just to have a jolly, that's fine. But then make it the best damn jolly ever. And not a off-the-cuff, second-hand, last-minute hope that I can get away with spending as little as possible. Because staff aren't stupid.
Yeah.
And if it's a rubbish event and they know that you spent, I don't know, 75 quid each on them because they work out how much everything would have cost, they're all going to go, you know what? If you're giving me a 50 quid Tesco voucher, other retailers are obviously available, I probably would have been happier because that could have helped me fund some of my Christmas food. Versus we had this awesome, like there was an awesome red carpet. I felt special. We had a bit of a dress up vibe, but not overly dress up vibe, which is then puts too much pressure on. And also for boys, the scariest two words in the world, smart casual. What does that even mean?
It's half and half. So
yeah,
shorts and a top.
And a jacket.
Yeah.
That's smart casual to me.
Same. Yeah.
Shoes optional. But this is the thing. Being intentional about what it is, how you've communicated why you're doing it that way. We're doing an end-of-year awards ceremony. Ooh. What is it? It's the Christmas Jolly. No, it's the end-of-year awards ceremony. Okay. But then it's not like everybody gets an award because you survived and didn't shoot anyone. Like, it's you have some honest, anonymous voting and some categories, and it feels a little bit glitz and glam then. Cool. That's a vibe. That's something that people will remember. That's something where somebody gets the Employee of the Year because they were voted by all of their peers. That's got meaning.
Yeah.
And unsurprisingly, that's part of a people strategy.
Yeah. I think it's the second word is the key bit there, isn't it? It's the strategy.
It is.
As always. Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be so powerful when done well. So powerful when done well. And yet so destructive when not done well. Yeah. I mean, it's almost better doing nothing, isn't it, than doing a bad. It's not even almost. It definitely is. Yeah. Remove almost. It just is. Facts.
Well, thank you, Rory. That was a good chat. I enjoyed that. Now, for the rest of this episode, we're going to get everyone involved, all 12 of the guests, including Mr. Berry himself as well. And this is where it gets a little bit more festive. So first of all, let's greet all of the other guests. We've already greeted Rory. So Simon, hello. Great to have you on the show again.
Yes, it's been a while, hasn't it? I can't remember.
It has.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Christmas jumper. You've taken your Santa hat off, I think.
Hang on.
So
We can do the full Santa thing.
I think we should. I mean, if I'm wearing a Christmas jumper, then
The full Santa effect. How's that?
Perfect. Spot on. Ben, number one, Ben Porter. Hi. You've got a lovely festive snowy background. Well done.
This is me coming directly from my lovely log cabin in made up land.
Steph and Debbie, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining me again, which is great. Not everyone would come back, so I'm pleased. Katherine, hello. Always a pleasure talking with you, and thank you for joining us once again for a Christmassy edition of the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here for this. Christmas is amazing, and I always have a great conversation with you, so this is going to be an absolute blast.
Alan and Emily, first time on the podcast. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll be back again next year, but let's not spoil the surprise for everyone.
It's a secret, David. Yeah. Don't say anything.
Sorry, spoilers. I'll put a spoiler warning at the beginning. Ben Grimshaw, thanks for joining us today. Again, it's been a long time since you've been on the podcast. I think you were like the first or second guest we ever had. So thanks for coming back.
Third, in fact.
Oh, yes, you did too. I forgot about that. God, so long ago. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming back despite that. Yeah.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Sonia.
Thank you for having me.
Helen, thank you for coming back. It's lovely to have you on the podcast again.
It's a pleasure, David. Lovely to see you again.
And Rachel as well. It's lovely having you back on the podcast. It's been over a year, I think, since your first appearance.
It has, yeah. I've been listening to lots of the other episodes. So, yeah.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, it's been great.
Well, thanks for agreeing to help us out with the Christmas special as well. It's always nice to see all of you, especially those of you who have taken the plunge and returned for your second or even third episode in some cases. Really appreciate you joining us today. Really looking forward to this. Thanks for staying, Rory, and everyone else. Thanks for logging in to join us for this conversation. I know the listeners are going to get a lot of fun out of this. So, first question for you all. What are the key leadership lessons that we can take from Father Christmas, Santa Claus, jolly old Saint Nick, whatever it is that you refer to him as in your homes?
Let's face it, the man's project management skills are pretty darn hot, aren't they? I mean, he has the ultimate in hard deadlines. It has to be done then. I mean, it has to be done by then. There is no backup. It's kind of like working in a theatre. The show goes up at 7:30, come hell or high water, whether the set is finished and the actors are on stage or whatever, but on a bigger scale. So yeah, I'm going for project management skills like you have never, ever, ever seen. Can you imagine the Gantt chart of just checking the reindeer, loading the sleigh and all of that kind of stuff. And there's that bit of me that talks about comms, because that's my thing, right? So there's a bit of me that's talking about comms. How good must his comms systems be to coordinate all of that, to liaise with as many elves as it takes to do all of that kind of jazz? Just breathtaking, right? Just mind blowing. And then there's that little bit of me that's the nerd, the little bit of me of going, what software is he using? Because I spend half my life, I can't hear myself, I'm going to have to take this off. I nerd out on software, you know? It's one of those things where if I don't want to do any work, I pretend I'm working by looking at software that's going to mean that I work faster, right? That's my guilty secret. What software must Father Christmas be using? What CRM must he be using to track who's been good, who's been naughty, who's been nice, what presents they've asked for, what they got last year, where they live, all of that. Can you imagine the relational database that sits behind that? Astonishing. I'm taking this way too seriously, aren't I? I have clearly spent far too long thinking this through.
I would never say that, but maybe. No, you're right. I mean, that must be a seriously impressive system, whatever it is, whether it's software or just magic.
Do you say software and magic like they are separate things?
It's magic when it works.
Oh, it's magic even when it doesn't work. It's just bad magic.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, let's face it, like bad magic. You can't see over here. I've got a box of bad magic over here. You can tell it's a box of bad magic because it says printer on it. And Pandora's box and my printer share a very great number of features.
No, this is one of the many reasons why I have a paperless office at home now.
I'm close. I've got to the point now where if ever I send something to this printer, as I send it, I leave the office, look back at the printer, and very clearly tell it, there is no rush. I'm under no pressure. Just so that it doesn't think it has to screw up as a matter of principle, because that's what printers do, right? The more important it is, the more likely they are to screw up.
Are you asking Father Christmas for a printer that works this year?
I've given up asking Father Christmas for a printer that works this year. I've asked Father Christmas for a printer that works for many, many years. And the closest I've got is one of these eco-refillable ones. Mm. And it works, actually, to be fair, it works single-sided, but I do prefer to print double-sided because it's only half the paper and all of that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it actually saves me any money because the number of time it jams and I have to reprint the darn thing.
The other random thought that popped into my brain there from that conversation is the printer the modern version of the lump of coal? Is that what naughty boys and girls get from Father Christmas now? A printer that refuses to print?
You could be heading in that direction. If that is the case, I have been a very naughty boy for a very long time. Because does anybody just shout out, put in the comments, whatever, get in touch with either of us. Does anybody have a printer which is reliable, cheap, fast, and eco-friendly? Because I'm going to buy the darn thing if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sell for any two of those, to be honest. It went down an avenue I didn't expect, which is always fun. So
that's a lie. You didn't expect me to stick to the brief, did you? Let me. You didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
It's an interesting question. And when you sent it through to me this morning, I thought, what is going on here? What is David on about now? But no, it's all good.
He's real, then. He's real.
He is?
Yeah, good.
Oh, I must be on the naughty list.
You are now.
I am now. Oh dear. It's a very good question. I think that it's interesting because essentially, I guess it comes under the heading of mythology, and it's interesting actually the myths that we tell ourselves as a culture. But you're not wrong. There are definitely some leadership lessons in there from jolly old Saint Nick, and I think probably, to me anyway, the most pertinent of those is about setting expectations, because that's what he's all about, right? You've got to be on the good list. You know that you've got to be good. And, quite aside from the fact that obviously it's a nice little way of maintaining order and discipline in one's own household when one has children, it's interesting though. It does teach kids and adults, I suppose, alike that there are requirements, there are expectations that need to be met. And I feel like expectation management is just, for me anyway, it's been a byword throughout my entire professional career. As soon as I realized it was a thing, it began to make a lot of sense to me that if you manage expectations, both within a team and with customers, you will have a much happier, much more straightforward life. Ultimately, people are happy if they're getting what they expected or slightly more. If they are getting slightly less than what they expected, they're likely to be unhappy. So that's it. And I think that, like I say, that goes for customers, that goes for team members, that goes for managers, that goes for everybody. So I think it's key. And I think that's one of the nice things that the Santa mythos gives us at this time of year, is that kind of early installation of this idea that there are requirements, do the thing and you'll be rewarded.
It's an interesting one. It makes me think of KPIs as well. Quite a good one. Like, here's your target, children. Here's your KPI to meet if you want a present instead of a lump of coal.
A lump of coal.
Yeah. I don't know though. I mean, then it begs another question, which is who are Santa's customers? Is it the kids or the parents? Because if it's the kids, that's quite unique, being able to set a KPI to your customer. Like, if you want this service level, you have to meet this objective first. I quite like that.
It's an interesting business model.
Yeah, it works for him, obviously.
It was a bold move some thousands of years ago, but it seems to have paid off. He's still in business. It's ever-expanding global operation. It's obviously worked out.
You can't say fairer than that. Yeah.
We did tell our little boy this year that he, if he was naughty, then he might end up with coal in his stocking. And his first question is, what is coal? Which makes sense. I mean, it's fairly archaic.
That says it all, doesn't it? Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. Times have changed.
Yeah. Which is funny because I was talking to Simon about whether the modern equivalent of a lump of coal should be a printer that never prints.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, as someone who has 15 years of IT experience, I can certainly tell you that printers that don't print are high on the list of atrocious things. But I feel like a lump of coal is just like, it's just a rubbish gift, whereas a broken printer is like giving someone some sort of demon into their life. That's completely different, because you know how it is. You have this printer that just doesn't quite work, and you just leave it because you rarely print. And then you'll need to print something for a solicitor or something important, and you'll go, oh no, the printer. See, that's far worse. That's far worse.
It's a fair point. Okay, so if not a printer and not a lump of coal, what would it be instead?
That's a really good question. I don't know. There's got to be something undesirable.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that back when they gave lumps of coal to kids as like, oh, you've been naughty, at least you could put it on the fire.
Yeah. At least it'd keep you warm. Yeah.
These days, it's even more useless. I don't know. What would you get them? Like a gas top-up card from the off license or whatever it might be.
Yeah, maybe, or a pair of socks or something.
A pair of socks.
Yeah, or one of those hideous woolly hats that nobody will ever wear.
Nobody ever wants socks for Christmas anyway, do they?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's socks. I think that the modern equivalent is socks.
Good.
It's Father Christmas in our house. And we've got, so I think the fact that he manages to get all those elves work really hard in a nice production line for 3 months and then gives them 9 months annual leave. That is top leadership tier, isn't it?
That is a good one. Yeah. I mean, where does the 3 and 9 months come from? Is there something in the story like this?
3 months. I think 3 months we start to celebrate Christmas, and I think that's when the elves get their skates on and start making stuff.
I mean, it's quite impressive, isn't it? The amount, I don't know how many children there are in the world.
Yeah.
What's the population figure these days? Must be billions.
Too many.
A lot.
Too many. Yeah. I mean, 3 months is quite an ambitious goal, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It's impressive.
They're magic as well, haven't they? So they got that on their side.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Is it magic, though, or is it just really hard work?
That's magic.
Okay.
It's Christmas. It's magic, all right, David.
They're lazy, but they're magic. Yeah.
I'd be lazy if I was magic, to be honest.
Yeah.
You would, wouldn't you?
I think I would. I think you would, wouldn't you? You just, yeah. I like that he delegates.
Yeah.
The delegation.
Yeah, good.
That's very important. And also in every Christmas film, whenever anything goes wrong, he's always still jolly. You never hear him swear, do you, or get angry? He always just takes it in his stride and fixes it, and it's all okay. I was watching Christmas films over the weekend. And no matter what, it was okay. Yeah. And I like that positivity.
Yes, good. Yeah, enthusiasm, optimism. Yeah, good. I like these. These are all ticking in the box for leadership.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought up the different names, because that plays into one of the biggest lessons that I think we can learn from him, which is flexibility in job roles, right? Because he went from being this, kind of based in the adult festivals and feasting, kind of back in the Middle Ages, all the way up to now. He's like this happy, jolly, I work with kids and I give them presents and I manage all these crazy elves and I have this stable of reindeer I've got to deal with, And so he's been very flexible, in his job duties. And I think that that's a great lesson that we can learn. That's the first one that I would say.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, we're always talking about leadership needing flexibility and adaptability and being able to deal with different individuals in different ways and all of those kind of things. And so, yeah, spot on. I love that one.
Right. Yeah. And then I think too, companies can learn from flexibility of product, because he went from making like dollies and wooden horse sticks to now he's got to deal with iPads and like AI robots. And that's a big shift.
Yeah. Do you think he's knocking things off then? Do you think he's actually putting out counterfeit goods? I hadn't thought of this.
I think he probably is. He's probably like, okay, guys, we can't be getting the Apple stuff. We've got to knock it down just to counterfeit goods.
He must be above the law. That's the only answer.
He is.
Yeah.
He is definitely 100%. Santa is, or Saint Nick is just, he's about as high up as you can get.
So we discussed this before we hit record today, Alan and myself. It caused a little bit of
we totally disagree, didn't we?
We nearly got divorced over it, David.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Well, no, yeah, okay. For the sake of this, we nearly got divorced. It was absolute tragedy in our house.
Well, now I feel so guilty.
Yeah. Well, Alan thinks I'm a negative Nancy, and Alan's like, no, this is clearly how we think differently in our house.
Well, what I thought was, and we'll come to what we thought in a minute, but what I thought was an outstanding leadership example, Emily thought was unnecessarily controlling. So yeah, we're perhaps you could tell us which one of us is right.
What do you think about?
So I thought Father Christmas demonstrated an amazing leadership by getting involved in the front line where the hard job is, being out there and going, and I feel a bad manager would have sent someone else out to do a 24-hour shift pattern where they have to visit everyone and contend with the body abuse that goes along with it. And I felt it demonstrated absolute leadership and integrity. Emily.
And my thoughts, and I didn't want to upset the big man. Me and Santa are like this, really. But the dude's just a glory hunter, right? Throughout the 12 months, he's got his elves doing the donkey work. He's got his elves in the workshops. He's got his elves packing up the steak. He's like, okay, guys, well done for all your efforts. I'm going to put on the red suit and off I trot, and everyone's going to say thank you to me.
So David's nodding at yours, not mine. So I'm going.
I just think, is that a really good team player in terms of leader, or am I just taking all the glory for other people's work?
Or do we just need to review the business model as well? Because it's all hard work at the end of the day. So you could argue that he's getting in. At least he's getting involved.
Yeah, that's true. I can see both arguments. Actually, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
If we thought about Santa as the head of a startup, I think the answer would be quite obvious, wouldn't it? But then he's been doing it for hundreds of years, so that doesn't work either.
No,
I'm stuck.
So I think the other challenge
thank you for my gifts down the chimney. I really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, right.
But if you watch, so there's this cartoon on Disney Plus, which is Prep and Landing.
Oh, Prep and Landing.
Prep and Landing. So in Prep and Landing, the elves get involved with the delivery and they prep the landing site. So a couple of elves go in first and they line it all up and everything else. So, you've got that to factor in. If you take Arthur Christmas, we've got 3 young kids, just in case anyone is wondering here. If you in Arthur Christmas, who says it? Bryony.
There's always time for a bow.
There's always time for a bow. She ends up in the sled with doing some delivery. So I don't feel the elves are truly left behind. And when he's off kind of Christmas Eve, he's there in the workshop, working together with them, helping them, be better. I think he's a hands-on leader.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a question of
it's
a question of balance, isn't it, and where you draw that line? Because it's possible to be a hands-on leader, to get involved, to show that you're helping and you're part of the team and all of those things that I think are important for leadership, as long as you stop before the line where you become that horrible, overbearing micromanager who has to be involved in every single thing and see every single email or letter in Santa's case.
But what if then, if Father Christmas is a bit more of a Richard Branson type leader, who absolutely recognise
Richard Branson is Father Christmas.
Well, there we go. That's
they do
the
both
takeaway.
have a beard.
They do, and they both have secret islands. Oh no, Father Christmas in North Pole, not enough. Well, that's an island. Anyway, but what if it's a bit more of that, where he recognises his skill set, and all the other stuff we don't see is outsourced. Like fundamentally, when we think of Virgin, we think of Richard Branson. None of us think of him as being bad, egotistical individual. We all go, he seems to know what he's doing. He's built a good business and his team seem to like him. And if they like him, arguably, he's a good leader. I'm not saying it's the only way of saying he's a good leader, but popularity is a way of understanding that. And he says himself, I learned at a young age what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So I got everyone else to do the stuff I'm not good at. And so I could focus on doing what I'm good at. What if that's Father Christmas?
Showboating.
Are you calling Richard Branson a showboat? Well, yes, let's be brutally honest. You do the hard work, I'm going to fly around the world in a hot air balloon.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like this is tied up in the whole thing around the CEO and founder and them being the brand of the business as much as anything else, which is definitely true of Richard Branson. Probably true of Father Christmas as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Doesn't mean he's not a good leader, though. I don't know. I can't decide. You can't put me on the spot. It's not happening.
Something's been working for several hundred, nearly 1,000 years, probably. The company culture must be okay if the elves have stayed around.
See, that puts you back on my side, Emily. It does.
Yeah.
And if you watch Christmas Chronicles, once again, the elves absolutely love Father Christmas. So the culture is spot on there.
They keep the elves in the sack. That's not good.
He does keep the elves in the sack. That could be taken out of context, just so you're
Anyway, great question, David. Great question.
Are you giving now? I was way keeping this going.
Yeah, I don't know if we've actually arrived at an answer, but there's the one in there somewhere. I'll let the listener decide. There we go.
Let us know. Let us know, everyone.
I mean, the thing that springs to mind for me is marketing. It's just all about having great marketing, having everybody know who you are and what you do all around the world. It doesn't all have to be the same either. You can reinvent yourself every few years and relaunch as long as you've got a great idea. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like maybe more of a business lesson than a leadership one, but communication maybe?
Yeah,
no,
excellent. Well, I guess, having a good team out there spreading the word about you. However you manage that. The other thing is you need to be in many places at once. Is that good leadership, appearing to be in many places at once, or is that good delegation?
I'm not sure.
I guess every manager wishes they could split themselves up into 1,000 people and have them doing all kinds of different things at once.
Yeah, I mean, every micromanager, certainly. I don't know. I guess the answer to whether that's good leadership or not depends on how good of a leader you're perceived to be, doesn't it? Like maybe people don't want multiple copies of you. Maybe they'd rather you weren't in all places at once.
Yeah, but it's only one day a year that you do that.
That's true. Yeah.
Get everybody's performance reviews done at once. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a labour saving there, isn't there? Yeah.
I think there is something around leading a diverse team. So I can't actually remember how many reindeers he's got, but I think it's about 6, 7 or 8, including some that you could say a bit like Rudolph might be star performers or a little bit different. And somehow he has got to literally rein in all these 7 reindeers to take him in the right direction in a high-pressured environment, probably make sure everyone's needs are met all the way along. So I think it's something about running a diverse team and making sure that everybody's going in the right direction to help meet his objectives.
I like that. Most people so far are focused on the elves. You're the first to mention the reindeer. So there we go.
Maybe that's because I've got the song Rudolph going around in my head at the moment.
Yeah, that'll do it. But then reindeer and elves, I mean, that's another element of diversity, isn't it?
It's true, yes. Yeah. And you could say, well, your reindeers are the ones that get the star billing. They're the ones at the front of house, and the elves are behind the scenes. So you need to value each of them equally as well.
Yeah, the elves doing all the real work, aren't they? Yeah. We probably shouldn't draw parallels there between certain departments and companies, should we? It might get us in trouble.
True.
He's Father Christmas in my house, and I have a 3-year-old toddler, and it's really confusing because is it like who's Santa? Everyone talks about Santa. Who is he? Because we call him Father Christmas, but I think he's finally getting the gist that they're the same person. But yes, the lessons to learn from him. So he spends all year preparing for this one job. That's dedication, isn't it? That is, dedication to the role. But my lesson actually was more about preparation. Goes back to that saying, if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail. So I think that is what Father Christmas teaches us. Preparation, and let's put dedication in there as well. Preparation, dedication to the role, doing the best job that you can.
I like it. And it's quite on brand for what you do as well, I think.
How funny. I hadn't actually thought of that, but yes. Yeah.
Of course,
we do a lot of preparation, and we put everything into a job and put a lot of dedication in there. So maybe that's why it came to mind, because it relates so much to what we do. Yeah,
well, there you go. So you're the Father Christmas for businesses?
Yeah, I support for businesses with a Father Christmas hat on.
Yeah, he said obviously you work more than one day a year. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He does work more than one day a year.
Does he, or is it the elves?
Oh, this is
a debate I'm having at the moment.
True. Yeah, you're right, actually. But he is overseeing it. Therefore, he has to prepare. He has to be organised for that to happen. There has to be a lot of preparation, a lot of management of a team. He is like the ultimate business owner, isn't he?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, he's certainly got a great track record, hasn't he? He's been doing it for so long, so can't argue with that.
And like delegating and making everyone else do the job for him.
Well, I mean, if you've been doing it, I mean, it must be, 1,000 years? It's hundreds of years. So, yeah, I mean, fair enough at that point. It's semi-retirement.
Yes. Yeah.
So, good question. Off the top of my head, this would be my list.
Was it a list? Even better.
Number one, with intense preparation, you can get a lot done in a short space of time. Because, let's be honest, 364 days of planning, one majestic night of hurtling around the world.
Yeah.
So it's the classic fail to plan to fail.
Yes.
Would be lesson number one. Number two, don't limit yourself to what you think is possible, because how many people realized reindeer could fly? So that would be the second one. Three, and this one is very personal for me, the power of fun and magic. I think that it's very easy for leaders to get caught in the drudge and the mundane and the day-to-day and forget to have fun, bring creativity, bring play into their worlds and into their businesses. I don't think they truly understand how much that will put on their bottom line in a number of departments and in a number of ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be, if I had to pick one, it would be the last one that I picked, but you got a 3 list.
No, I like it. Yeah, 3 is good. It's nice. It's not a random number, is it? It's a nice odd number. Yeah.
Well, I figured Christmas 3 wise men. Hey.
Oh, yeah, that does align well. Well done.
I also thought about that after I gave you 3. So I kind planned it.
Yeah, you just couldn't think of a 4th one, could you? Yeah.
No.
That's the truth. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I massively agree with all of those. I think the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I mean, that's a saying for a reason, isn't it? So we can't argue with that one. The second one, I mean, it's a fair assumption, though. I mean, you look at reindeer, who would expect them to fly?
Who would?
Like, they don't have wings or jet engines or anything like that would make you assume they could. So, very good point. And fun. Yeah, I mean, the best workplaces, certainly I've ever worked in, are the ones where people didn't take themselves too seriously, especially the leadership. Yeah. They weren't afraid of having a bit of fun. They weren't afraid of I don't want to say the word banter because that has a different connotation, but they weren't afraid of the kind of the back and forth and the joking around kind of thing with the staff. Yeah. Versus the worst ones where they were all serious all the time. Yeah. If you spoke to them without asking, you got shouted at and that sort of nonsense, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
And I think a misconception that people have around the fun, the play, the creative, is that there's no structure, it's not serious, and it can't be high performing. Total rubbish.
Oh, yeah.
I think that when you have those environments and you have a serious conversation, people take it seriously because it's not delivered with any malice or anything like that, but it's a case of, oh, this is serious. And off we go. And so you deliver that with the right compassion, empathy, etc. Even in those fun, playful, creative environments, you can then have that serious, and then you get accountability, which then rockets you into that high performance space. And I think that there's too much bad press that high performance has got, which should have been called toxic workplace environment and not high performance.
Yes.
But that's a whole different conversation for a whole different podcast.
Indeed. But yeah, I very much support that sentence.
It's a yes from me.
Yes, indeed. 10 out of 10. Yeah. So as Simon has raised this topic, I'm going to ask the rest of you as well. The lump of coal, it's a bit out of date, isn't it? What do you think the modern equivalent of it is, or perhaps its replacement should be? So if he's gone from the wooden toy to the iPad, what's the equivalent to the lump of coal?
Taser. We're just going to taser people.
You can't give kids a taser.
I don't know. That'd be pretty funny.
You've been naughty.
No, seriously. No, because it's supposed to be something that you don't want, right? Like just like super practical. Like I don't want to have this. So I'm going to go with vitamins. Like, because we're all super into like health stuff now. So he's just giving kids that have not been good vitamins.
That's a good one.
And not even the good like gummy ones. Like we're talking like the pill form, you got to swallow it whole kind of gummy, like kind of vitamins. That's what he's giving them. Yeah.
Or the vegetable form. That's the other unpopular one, isn't it?
Yeah. Although when I was little, I love vegetables. So I mean, I guess it would depend on what vegetable you're giving them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brussels sprouts, presumably, as it's Christmas.
I love Brussels sprouts. Don't be dissing my sprouts, man. I love those things.
Yeah, so do I now. But as a kid,
I see your point. I hate
them.
cabbage. I hate cabbage. I will not eat coleslaw. I will not eat cooked cabbage. I just won't do it. So for me, I would have gotten cabbage for having been poorly behaved.
In your stocking, so you're on the bad list and you wake up, and if you're lucky, you're on the bad list, you get a lump of coal. What's the modern equivalent? Is this a time for some things don't need reinventing? A pencil?
No, a pencil.
In a world of tech, in iPads.
Broken iPhone.
A broken iPhone. Your iPhone broken. Not yours, literally yours, but like one's iPhone broken.
I think in this modern day, anyway, like a dead battery for your iPhone, or an iPhone without a charger that you can't charge. Those probably. I don't know.
Or a piece of tech with the shortest battery. I mean, I have battery anxiety. Like if I go away for the weekend, it upsets me how I need to balance backup chargers, battery packs, a 3-cable. I went away to Poland, for the night. I had my smartphone and my iPhone Apple Watch. I had to take 3 cables because one was a USB-C, one was a USB-A. Then I had to take a charger. Then I've got a European plug. And I'm like, it's too much. It's too much. The tech, but that kind of management of tech is ridiculous. So I agree. Something that affects the management of it.
2023. That's your version of a lump of coal.
That's an interesting answer. Other ones I've had so far have been socks. Because
I like socks. Socks are brilliant. Our house is freezing. I appreciate socks.
But that's it, isn't it? Because back in the day, like coal could still have a use. You could at least warm yourself with it. So it has to be something vaguely useful still, I think. I don't know. But then the other option was a printer that never prints, because that's like the modern horrid tech, isn't it? But
wouldn't the modern equivalent be like a lump of wood then? Because so many houses have wood and everything else nowadays that actually that's all come back in. So just a lump of wood or a token. If you were on a meter for your gas and electric, a token. But then that's probably actually quite helpful because you could just shove it straight in.
Conversations didn't we have today?
It's a sign of the times, isn't it? Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I don't think that would fly these days. Negative reinforcement is generally frowned upon in most settings.
That is a good point that I hadn't thought of. Well made.
Yeah. Maybe you would just get a little note telling you ways in which you could improve your behaviour next year to get a better present.
Yeah. Do you not think that's a bit passive aggressive for Santa, though?
Oh, definitely. But it's surely better than coal.
Well, yeah. I mean, as a previous Ben, in fact, pointed out, at least you could burn coal. It would keep you warm. I suppose you could burn the note as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It wouldn't last as long as the coal. I think I've thought of something worse than coal.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a smarmy note.
If you really want a present next year.
Yeah. So where I come from, coal is a New Year's Eve thing.
Oh.
So the tradition is that there had to be a man be the first person go through the door, your front door, on New Year's Day or after New Year's Eve, and he had to bring a lump of coal. But that's quite an odd. This is like going back to the 50s type thing. So my mum remembers it when she was little, but it's nothing I have ever done. So to me, coal is not a Christmas Day or Christmas Eve thing.
Interesting. Maybe that just means you're always good. So you never earned the lump of coal. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, we've had some great suggestions on it though, like a non-functioning printer, a smartphone that will never hold a charge, a pair of socks. Most of us get those anyway. So.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you're right. It is out of date. Yeah. I have no idea. But it is funny, just going back to my 3-year-old, it is funny how we use this Father Christmas thing for like a discipline thing. Like I've seen a lot of, because I follow a lot of different parenting things on Instagram. I'm all about like different parenting types. I have no idea which parenting type I am. But one thing I saw was like, why do we use it as such a kind of controlling thing? You know, be good or else. But I'm using it loads. Like I would say I'm quite a I don't know if the term is gentle parenting. I don't know, but I think a lot about my parenting style, even though I don't really know what it is. But yeah, I'm throwing Father Christmas left, right, and centre right now. Like, you be good or else. But yeah, in terms of what that present or what that present would be if they were not good, it'd be like a ban from devices. No TV. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
The TV gets taken away.
Santa Claus will steal your TV. Yeah.
Yeah. What would make my son unhappy? His Peter Rabbit. He's only 3. His Peter Rabbit gets taken away.
Oh dear.
Oh, that would be mortifying. Yeah, stick with the coal.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. It's difficult though as well, because as one of the others pointed out, at least with a lump of coal, you could burn it and get some warmth out of it. It has a practical purpose as well, even if a child might hate it.
Yes, very
So
true.
It's difficult to find a replacement for that, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not being a parent myself, I saw a meme the other day about the Christmas discipline parenting thing. And it was this idea that you, at the beginning of December, you wrap up a load of empty boxes and put them under the tree. And then every time the child's naughty, you take one of those empty boxes and say, right, one less present, and throw it on the fire. Which I thought, as a non-parent, I found that hilarious. But
I find that traumatizing.
it's a bit further than the lump of coal, isn't it? Maybe a step too far. But
I think
it
it's
made me
too far.
chuckle.
Yeah, I mean, empty boxes under the tree is a great present, Well, toddlers would love that. A box, amazing. But yeah, not if it's been thrown on the fire.
And the final question I have for you all, this one's a bit of a competition, actually. Well, it's not. Don't get competitive, everyone. But the question is, what is the best or worst office Christmas party you have ever been to? And I'll let you choose with your answer whether you want to go with best or worst.
So I'm going to answer that with the of all of the ones I've ever attended, the one that was the most memorable and enjoyable for me, and in my experience, looking at the room and the conversations afterwards for everyone involved, the Christmas markety one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that giving people the right amount of structure but freedom and options makes it as inclusive as possible and enjoyable as possible. And yes, you might still have sort of cliquey groups of people that congregate together because they always congregate together and they just feel more comfortable that way. But even in that event, there was still some cross-pollination of groups and some beautiful community that came out of it, and just a generally enjoyable experience. So yeah, it was great.
Good.
So that would be if I had to run one, I would probably try to do something similar to that.
Good. Yeah. And I think the other thing I like about that is because obviously not everyone celebrates Christmas.
Exactly.
So we're talking about the Christmas do, but really what we mean is the end of year do, don't we? And I think something like that, yeah, I mean, you can call it a Christmas market or you can call it a winter market.
Exactly.
And it can be a bit more inclusive that way as well. So yeah, I really like that.
And what you've just highlighted there is also why a lot of Christmas do's, with a growing diversity and inclusivity in workforces, and it's not just from a faith-based thing, it's also from a neurodiversity perspective, because there are a lot of people that struggle with big, crowded, loud, bright and shiny and flashy. And so putting people into that and telling them to have fun, tricksy. Whereas a Christmassy, wintry fair market, craft market, and call it what you will, can have quieter spaces. It doesn't have to be very flashy lights and stuff, but it can still have some sprinkling and clinkling of things. But it just gives you those added elements of looking after everyone.
I think it's important to say first off that my background professionally has mostly been higher education. And in higher education, from my experience, it's largely down to different departments to organise their own Christmas do, often with a set budget. But it always amazed us how the different departments had different things. I remember one year when we were being given a trip to a random pizza place, in town for a 3-course Christmas meal, pretty standard stuff, and discovering that one of the other departments had been taken to some completely bonkers circus display with a meal and all sorts at Mercedes-Benz World and all this stuff. So first off, there's obviously a disparity there between what different people are doing. But I don't know. I've seen some good ones. I've seen some bad ones. And I think that really, especially from a leadership point of view, the only important thing with the Christmas do is don't make it feel cheap, because nobody wins when you make it feel cheap. There are ways to do that and, ways to not spend too much money. But if your staff feel like it's just a perfunctory kind of, we've spent the bare minimum, Merry Christmas, you may as well not do it. Do you know what the odd thing is that some of the best Christmas do's I've had have been ones where the staff are self-funding it. They pick somewhere that they want to go and have a meal, and just, because I think ultimately, even if they're not paying for it, they've had a sense of agency there and been able to kind of determine what they wanted to do. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from that. I've had some great Christmas parties in the past and some terrible Christmas parties in the past. And it all starts from that build up where everyone's talking about the event, and they do. And if that chatter is positive because people are looking forward to it, great. If that chatter is negative because everyone's complaining about how cheap it is, not a good start.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the planning and the anticipation, isn't there? 100%.
Absolutely. I think also, controversially perhaps, I think that some of the better ones I've attended have been ones where senior management have come along for a meal and then swiftly exited stage left.
Oh, interesting. So that, I was going to say, right, so to answer that question, I can answer both with the same party. It started out being the worst because we thought, well, this is just a rubbish restaurant that they've chosen and we had no say in it, and all those things that you were talking about. I think the context of the time that year, a lot of us were quite unhappy with the senior management as well. So there was a bit of grumbles anyway. But then it became the best out of the worst when the senior management went home and left us the corporate card to spend at the bar. So for the rest of the Christmas party, we had a great time.
There you go. Sometimes I think you've just got to leave people to their own devices.
So the worst one we've ever been to is last year. Well, when we first started the business, we thought, yay, because we speak to loads of people, and we were like, yay, we'll have a little Zoom Christmas party. So we were all excited, and nobody turned up. So it's like
being here for an hour. It was amazing.
So that was the best one then, obviously.
Well, yeah, but it was also a little bit embarrassing. We were like, no one's coming to our party.
I'm getting childhood flashbacks now.
Luckily, we had each other and it was all right. But yeah, that was pretty bad.
I mean, it could have been worse if it was an in-person one and you'd spent all the money on the booze and the food and everything, and then nobody showed up. At least it was just Zoom, right?
Yeah, it was just Zoom. It was still, because I was still in Ireland as well. It was still COVID-ish time, like we weren't fully out of COVID. So yeah, that was so funny. I don't know.
Let's just say we didn't do it again. We were like, let's not do that again. Like, we'll keep the Christmas parties to ourselves now.
Yeah. Last year's Christmas party was really good. That was just Debs and I in an Airbnb, and then we went out for lunch and just had to play games and
gymnastics.
But I mean, we've had quite a few together because when we worked together before, so we've had many a Christmas party in London with engineers and Chinese karaoke. We've had ones where we dressed up as Flacker girls. It was guys and dolls, and we had like fake guns and things, and then we did a ballet dance off.
Standard.
Yeah.
Those all sound like a lot of effort to me. Like, it's too much.
Yeah. This year we just went for lunch, didn't we? We took the main folk out for lunch.
And then we did an escape room in an envelope.
Yeah. Well, we did, because by that point they'd drunk too much wine and beer and we're useless.
And was it difficult getting out of the envelope?
It was surprisingly quickly.
You're still in it. I was wondering, is the white background? You're actually inside an envelope, right? That all makes sense
Still in there. Basically, I super glued it up. I'm like, come out next year, Steph.
Yeah. You can come out next year just in time for the next escape room from a wet paper bag. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the plan.
I'm told that one's easier.
It's both. I had both in one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I did. I had both in one. So, so we started off and we had this great, like, kind of potluck thing, everybody from their different cultures. And we had people from, around the world. So it was really wonderful. So a bunch of different, foods and different traditions. We all kind of shared our traditions and got into that and talked about, like, the great things that we appreciated about each other. We all went around and said what we appreciated about each other and, kind of did that whole bit. So it was very positive and very happy. There was a little bit of dancing. There was some music and some just light, like, bebopping around kind of dancing. More food later, then just swarms of desserts came, right? And we got to just pig out, and that was wonderful. There was no actual work getting done, like just none. And so it was a great day to just kind of relax and, bring in the holidays until our company drama queen, for no reason that anyone could discern, slaps one of our coworkers right across the face.
Wow.
And literally brings everything to a grinding halt. Oh, it gets better. Okay, we then all went to this really cool planned dinner. And when we walked in, we were at a place where the waitresses, and they were all female, serve you in thongs and topless.
Why?
I don't know. To be honest, I looked at the owner and I said, I'm curious, because this is the one element of the party that he insisted on planning. Okay. I did a lot of it, and then this was his. Yeah. And myself and the other another young lady. I said, why are we here? And he goes, well, they have great food, and I thought it would be a gas. I thought it'd be a real laugh. Yeah. I'm like, wow. Huh. Well, this is not HR friendly. This is an HR nightmare. I do not know what to do with this.
Oh my God.
And we had a couple of people that were really uncomfortable.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was really just more of obviously the professional aspect, but then also, like, I'm a germaphobe. And so I'm like, I need my servers to be, dressed.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting, it was both the best. It started off being the best, and then it went to the worst. And so that was my experience with probably the most memorable and bizarre holiday party of all time.
Yeah, I think you might win. I mean, it's not a competition, but I think you might win.
I might win for that one. It went from wholesome and happy and pictures of families and talking about appreciating each other and sharing each other's cultures to naked people and slaps. I
don't think anyone's going to top that story, if I'm honest. It's pretty unique
story.
Yeah. Wow. Did anyone walk out? I feel like I would have walked out.
There was one that did.
Yeah.
And it was, and he was so polite about it. God love him. He was so polite about it, but he was just like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to participate.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It's very difficult to think back too far, because for the last 12 years, we've been a party of two. We've managed to make it better by having our Digital Circus kind of Christmas parties together, where we bring people for a little bit of a Christmas lunch together. I wouldn't say they're really rock and roll parties, though, would they? They're just a nice ability to chat. I think for my
I've got a worst. So one of the reasons we I was going to say I didn't want to say and that puts me in the kind of not the good spot. One of the reasons we have a community called the Digital Circus, it's very community focused, and the reason we the first thing we ever did was invite other small businesses around our house for a mince pie and a coffee on the build up to Christmas. And genuinely one of the many reasons we do that is because I was a field engineer and a field manager for decades. And I used to get fed up driving around by myself at Christmas while the radio was banging on about all the Christmas parties. Now, the particular worst one, and it's worse for many different reasons, it was the 23rd of December, and I was trying to impress my boss, right? What a mistake to be made. Lesson learned there. And I drove to Preston from Southampton to spend the day working in the office just to be visible to the team within there. And as I spent the night in the hotel on the 23rd, the couple in the room next door were definitely enjoying their Christmas party. And I there and went, I am never doing this again. I will never try and impress a boss this way. It was an absolute learn.
Were you doing that was by buying your festive Tesco meal deal?
Yeah, exactly. As you open your poor little Tesco carrier bag and unwrap my BLT, no trimmings, all the trimmings left, you know. Yeah. It's like, I haven't even got a Christmas sandwich. But it was unbelievable. And from years of driving around in a car, listening to people having fun, to then literally listening to them having fun in the room next to me, I swore I would never do that for a boss again, and Christmases would be different.
Okay, so I think we went with worst.
Yeah, 100% worst. Yeah.
You did have an opportunity to say every year's the best one now, though. But
every year's the best one, David. The ones you're at, David, are the best ones.
There were a few. What can I say legally? Okay, there is one that springs to mind, and I'm going to enter it as both. One Christmas party for one particular organisation that I worked with at the time, not one that I was, not one that I ran, but I was one of the senior members of staff involved, and we were at a pub, and many drinks were had, as you would expect at a staff Christmas party, and all of the power went out in the pub. This was middle of December. It was very dark. It was quite cold. All the power went out, and it didn't come back. So people were sitting there kind of finishing their drinks, wondering what was going to happen. And the very nice bar lady eventually came round and just said to everybody, look, sorry guys, power's down, not much we could do. But seeing an opportunity here, I jumped up and went over and managed to negotiate a lock-in for ourselves. In the this pub had two rooms, so kind of in the room out the way, and the deal was that if the power stays off, we'd finish up our drinks, and then we would just get some drinks in from the local shop or something, carry on the party. And we negotiated, and it was a negotiation backwards and forwards, a price for doing this, and it went ahead, and we moved rooms. Everybody carried on, and then half an hour later, the power came back on, and we were allowed to finish all of the drinks that we bought from elsewhere. And we had a room that was basically our private room at that point. So could have gone quite bad, and ended up picking up.
Yeah, so we actually got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. And that's all I can remember of that night.
Everything after that is just gone. Yeah.
Blur. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if that were me in that situation, I would have been, look, I'll do you a favour because there's no power. The fridges aren't going to work. Yeah. All those drinks will spoil. I need to dispose of them for you. I'm helping you out.
Yeah, it kind of was a bit like that. We're like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to close down the pub? You're going to make no money? What's the plan here? You know, we're here. We're happy to carry on and stuff. I think we managed to get some drinks from behind the bar and stuff. Sort of thrown in. I can't remember. I can't remember the details of all of them, but yeah.
I don't really have a best or a worst. I don't go to that many Christmas parties. I try to avoid them.
And why is that? Why is that?
I'm just at that point in my life where I just want to be home. After a long day, I just putting in the effort. I know networking. I do a lot of networking and I talk to a lot of people. And sometimes I don't want to be in that space because I do it so much. I'm out speaking. I'm out at an event and I'm, building up my Rolodex. And sometimes I'm just like, if I don't need to, I'm not going to go. And Christmas parties are the ones that I don't have to go to.
And I think as a leader, it is quite a challenging thing to navigate as well, isn't it? The Christmas party, the dreaded thing. Yeah. Because on the one hand, you don't want to not go and be seen to be a bit grumpy about the whole thing. On the other hand, they're supposed to be about fun, and there's quite often a bit of drinking involved, and a lot of people may not feel like they can fully embrace that and be themselves if they're worried about the boss.
Yeah,
seeing it.
Oh, they can go all on their own and have their Christmas party.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a happy medium in there somewhere where the leader's there for the first couple of drinks or the dinner and then leaves everyone to it.
We have Christmas parties, and they're always, it's a nice dinner. People hang out. It's nothing crazy because we're not like a massive team. But it's always a nice time. It's just a time to be outside the office, have a drink or two, just, meet people's partners because we don't usually get to do that. And we'll play a couple games. We always do a guessing game where you get like a character on your back and then you can only ask one question. So it gives people like the opportunity to mingle a little bit outside of their little circle and talk to other people. So that's always fun. And I always attend our own Christmas party. I just don't attend other people's parties.
Yeah. Well, no, why would you? Like, I wouldn't either. But yeah, maybe I'm just a Grinch. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So the most memorable ones, this came up on my Facebook thing yesterday. I think it said it was 12 years ago.
Wow.
So I worked for the same company for a very long time, and certainly for the last 10 years I was in the same department, and the parties were quite similar. They were all quite good fun, but nothing special. But 12 years ago, the day of the Christmas party, they were always on Thursdays, I was relatively quiet, which was unusual that day. And my youngest son was still at nursery, and he was in the nursery nativity, and I'd already got my mother-in-law roped in to go and watch him because me and my husband were at work. But his nursery was right by the station, and because I was quite quiet, I thought, do you know what, I'm going to nip home on the train. So it'd been about 45 minutes down on the train, watch the play and go back up again. And so I did, and this was on the back of just generally end of year being very tired and what have you. So I went to watch his play, it was really good, went back, and then went to the Christmas party. And I didn't have a lot to drink, honestly. But I got to the train back to where I live, and the end of the line where I live is Brighton, and fell asleep on the train and ended up in Brighton after the last train had finished for going back. So then I had to spend £40 on a taxi. This was 12 years ago, so it'd been a lot more now. And got home at about 2:30 in the morning.
Oh dear. Bet you're popular.
Yes. Well, I think my husband was in bed and didn't notice anyway. So I have done that. It's one of the things that at work we always used to laugh about was the whole missing the last train home type thing, but I have done it. But in my defence, I had been up and down from London all day and had a toddler and probably a 4 or 5 year old as well. So
yeah, and there's definitely nothing to do with the drink. Yeah,
definitely nothing to do with the drink.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the wavelength. Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't actually been to that many, so I'm trying to. Well, for some people know this, that I also work as a singer, so I perform at a lot of parties. I've seen some great ones. Huge, massive parties. I haven't seen that many bad ones, to be fair. For going to ones, I can't think of any actual like parties I've been to. I've been to like days out with companies. And I was often in charge of organising them at the company I worked for before this life.
Okay.
Yeah, and I organised going to Hever Castle and then a lunch in a really old pub, and I thought it was brilliant. But some of the younger ones were not that excited by it. Another one we did was a crazy golf day. Well, it was an evening, but like they were fun. But yeah, I haven't really got loads of experience in that. So no, I haven't seen any shockers.
Okay. This one has turned into a bit of an informal competition this week, I have to say. So I'm sorry, but I don't think you're going to be in the top 3.
No, I don't think I am.
No, Crazy Golf sounds like it's got potential, though, especially if you mix it with a few drinks and
Yes.
overeating. That could be amusing.
So yeah. So it was one of those ones in London where it was like, you're drinking as you're going around. It was so fun. But we had such a mix in that company of people who were a lot older, like in their 60s, maybe 50s, 60s. And then we had the younger lot who were sort of 20s, 30s. So it was really hard to please everyone. So like that year before, the first one I mentioned, when we went to Hever Castle, that was more for the older people. And I loved it because I love that kind of history stuff. And then this one was more for the younger people, but it was just very hard to please everyone.
Yeah, they just have to take turns in liking it, don't they?
Yeah,
it's the only way to go sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, I've done lots of corporate events, like corporate Christmas parties that have been awesome. Like did one a couple of weeks ago, and it was in this massive hotel in London, and they had like a big dinner and they had music and loads of like really went to town on the decor. They had a ski theme. It was awesome, really beautiful.
Well, listeners, that is a wrap. There will be an extended version of this episode as well, because there was so much good material, but I had to edit it down to get us within or at least close to our hour's time slot for the episode. So watch this space for the extended version. It will just be the uncut version effectively, so you'll get everything. If you want to know more about any of the very excellent and kind guests that we've had joining us today, I'm just going to run down the list now. Ben Grimshaw of Cranley Home Care. His first appearance on the podcast was episode 2, which was recorded way, way back in 2021, I think. It's published again as of July last year. Ben Porter of Ben Porter Photography. His first appearance was in episode 3, again, way back when. Steph and Debbie of Stebbington Limited originally joined us back in November 2022. You can hear more of their thoughts on starting a small business, on leadership management, all the lessons they've learned from their careers thus far in episode 15. Rachel of My Freelance Admin first joined us for episode 17, which was again back in November last year. We had a great chat, particularly from the angle of starting a virtual business. Mr. Rory Berry of Roaring Berry first made his appearance in episode 28, which was the last episode of 2022. So released a year ago today, in fact. So episode 28, check that one out. It was all about, are we playing enough? And how you can use Lego, fun, Star Wars stuff, all kinds of things in the workplace, make your work culture a bit more bearable, a bit more fun, and ultimately more productive. So that was a great episode. If you've not heard that one before, do check it out. Simon from Presentation Genius first appeared in episode 34, and we spoke all about how to achieve great presentation skills and more effective communication, both as a leader and as a presenter. So another really good episode there. And HR and diversity expert Katherine first appeared in episode 39, which was recorded back in March of this year. To hear more from leadership expert and executive coach Helen of Helen Tubnam Consulting, check out episode 62, which was released back in July of this year. And last but by no means least, to hear more thoughts from Sonia Kuto and some of her journey as a tech founder, managing director and leader, you've only got to go 2 days back and listen to episode 85, which came out on Friday this week. So that was it. Some really great guests there. So many of them in one place at one time, but what a great episode. I really enjoyed that. I hope, listener, that you've enjoyed our little Christmas special today as well, and that you found some value and insight, not just in this episode, but in everything we've done on the podcast this year. If you want to learn more or have a chat with me about leadership, please do reach out anytime. As always, the links to everyone's websites from this episode will be in the episode description, as will the link to both my website, which is www.leadernotaboss.com, and my LinkedIn profile. So as I say, if you want to have a chat, if you need some help with leadership, anything like that, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. That is a wrap for Leading with Integrity in 2023. It's been an amazing year. thank you so much to everyone who is listening or has listened, everyone who's commented, liked, given us some wonderful reviews as well. I really do massively appreciate each and every one of you. So a big heartfelt thank you from me. The podcast will be returning on the 3rd of January 2024, and our first guest for the year will be Ulrika Seminati. Keep an eye on our social media in the new year to find out more about that episode. All of the best for the festive season, whether you're celebrating Christmas or not, whether you're working or not. Make the most of the end of the year celebrations in whatever form they may take. And I wish you the absolute best for the new year. And that's it from me. Hope to see you in the new year. Until then, stay safe over the Christmas period and be a leader, not a boss.